one of the lawmakers was on Channels TV. He showed his alert. It was 930-something thousand naira. The person who moved the motion for donation had lied that they were earning 600,000. Even after lying, they still couldn't keep the promise of donating half. So if you have people in government who live large, who are extravagant, who don't care, who live as if there is an excess of funds, you can't then tell the people to suffer, to manage, and not expect them to grow. Now,
this is the kind of video the Tinubu's government does not want you to see. These are the kind of information that pisses them off. But guess what? These brave and bold Nigerians are here to say it the way it is. Take a look.
The president spent time telling us about what he did in the past. We launched this initiative, we launched that initiative. All those initiatives were in place and the people were still dissatisfied. People were still hungry. People were still poor. People were finding it hard to live as Nigerians, to afford the basics. Look, I'm going to say this on national TV. If the government is really interested in knowing the smugglers, give me 5 policemen, empower them to arrest anybody, give me 1 month, you will know the smugglers.
If you want a dialogue, you don't just say you want dialogue by words of mouth. You come to the Eagle Square. In the presence of all Nigerians, you come and announce, you tell us the policies that you can immediately, the demands that you can immediately meet, and the ones you want us to give you time for you to meet. Not that you call us, we can't go behind closed doors. We don't do that.
So in other words, you're not going to dialogue with them?
No, we are not against dialogue. We are asking the president to come in broad daylight. That means of communication. We do not sit down, we do not dialogue behind closed doors. We asked, for example, here in Abuja, we asked to use the Eagle Square as the venue for convergence for protesters. But the minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, denied us that venue, and the place was barricaded by the military and police officers and the DSS. So we are not interested in any closed door meeting or any closed door, behind door dialogue. If the president wants to dialogue, he should come to Eagle Square and speak to Nigerians, millions of Nigerians, both in Nigeria and in the diaspora. He should come speak to us the way he was there on May 29 or on June 12.
Right.
The president spent time telling us about what he did in the past. We launched this initiative, we launched that initiative. All those initiatives were in place and the people were still dissatisfied. People were still hungry. People were still poor. People were finding it hard to live as Nigerians, to afford the basics.
These hard times is not going to end anytime soon because the government is not taking any step that offers hope to the Nigerian people. You can imagine as it stands now, you can't say this is what this government is doing so that at the end of August, from the month of September, we'll start seeing light at the end of the tunnel. There is nothing, nothing is practically happening in Nigeria today that gives hope to the ordinary man that even by the end of this year that things are going to get better. So as it stands now, this government is they've pushed Nigerians to the wall by removing fuel subsidy, and they've gone back to just sit down to watch Nigerians, struggle with the hard times that we are into. And that is what people don't want to see.
People on the streets are not protesting because they want to own cars, they want to build houses, they want to fly abroad, they want to go on vacation. It's because they want to eat. And the president's speech did not address how people would be able to put food on their table. And as long as that is not done, going forward, not what he did in the past, what he would do arising from the protest, he didn't achieve that. And the people on the streets are still upset, are still angry.
Like most people, we do understand that there is a deep hardship. Clearly, I don't think anybody contests that.
I don't think the president understands. I don't think the people around him understand. Because the president in the first few sentences said people with political agenda. It's not about agenda. People are genuinely hungry. I know the number of people who ask me for money daily. Who am I? Who reach out and say, I need help. We need help. School fees, eat. People are genuinely frustrated in this country. I think people in the presidency have scant understanding of the hardship that the average Nigerian faces today. And that has to be clear. That people are hungry, that, of course, opposition would always be opposition. When they were in the opposition, they were interested in protest. So I don't think they should expect the current opposition to behave otherwise. But beyond opposition politicking, the reality is that there is something that unites people, the average man on the street right now, and it is hunger.
By the way, I was going to say that if you look at the demands, I had worked in government for a little time before I came back to my day job. It's almost impossible for the president to reverse the pump price of fuel. It's almost impossible for the reversal of that. But hey, yeah, you're right. It doesn't address, some of them doesn't address the immediate problem of hunger. Well, my question to you is that, is it possible, can we realistically say that the demand to reverse the pump price?
There are two things I'm going to say. The first is that I was always for retention of subsidy. Why? The president said it, that it was wasteful, that, some people, a clique of people had taken over.
Right.
It was benefiting a few people and not the public. So the question is, the president and commander-in-chief cannot identify the people benefiting from the waste and deal with them, cannot stop the rot, and then ensure that it then... Because the reality is that... So I ask myself, what does the government do for me? I run an organization, pay corporate tax, pay personal tax, almost generate my lights, because we had to find a way to have solar inverter in the office. We can't rely on electricity. When it's there, it's expensive. The roads are bad. What exactly am I benefiting from the government as a Nigerian? By the way, the government benefits from me because I'm a law-abiding Nigerian and I pay taxes to the government. Now, there are two things that any president should be very careful about, two economic policies that a president should be very careful about. Number one is fuel. The understanding that petrol pump price is connected to the Nigerian economy. Because electricity is bad, we're going to buy fuel for our generators. That's what cars use for one of the live wires of our economy is fuel. If you touch it, you've touched everything else. Everything.
Really.
And then the second is that we are an import-dependent country. We don't export, we don't produce, we don't manufacture. By the way, I did an undercover investigation of smuggling, and people in government were offended. But it's also about the economy that you are ripping genuine producers off. You are ripping farmers off. Farmers are not profiting, but people, cronies of people in government are smuggling chicken, turkey, but livestock producers in this country don't have the benefit. So we are an import-dependent country. You have to find any way possible to make sure that the naira to dollar rate is not so bad that it then affects everything. Because we import everything. We don't manufacture. How many things we manufacture in this country? Now, the president came and then, stopped defending the naira. And now it's that bad that everything is expensive in multiples. So those two things, the president didn't... Look, for me, it was a bad decision to end subsidy on the basis of the argument that it was benefiting just a few people. You can't be commander-in-chief and not be able to rein in a few people. So why are you commander-in-chief if you can't do that? That's one. Then two is that now there's so much hardship in the land, but you can afford to renovate the vice president's office for more than 21 billion naira. Right? Lawmakers can get SUVs. The lawmakers came on there and deceived the people they could deceive, not someone, not someone like me, that they were going to donate half of their salaries. In the first place, they lied about the value of their salaries. They claimed they were earning 600,000. There's no Nigerian lawmaker, House of Rep member who earns less than 900 and something thousand in salaries, not in allowances where they make the bulk of their funds for. Now, even the 50% donation they promised hasn't happened, hasn't happened. So the people...
Maybe this is the first month.
No. They've received July salaries. They had that conversation in the middle of July just to placate the public.
So how do you know that they've
because FIJ tracked it. They've received salaries. One of the lawmakers was on Channels TV. He showed his alert. It was 930-something thousand naira. The person who moved the motion for donation had lied that they were earning 600,000. Even after lying, they still couldn't keep the promise of donating half. So if you have people in government who live large, who are extravagant, who don't care, who live as if there is an excess of funds, you can't then tell the people to suffer, to manage, and not expect them to grow. Now, I don't support violence. I never will support violence. But you see, what you are seeing in those northern states is a real reflection that people have lost their minds. People have become so hungry that they have lost their minds, especially those who are not educated or on the streets. They then don't know. If they don't want to know if it's the governor or the president or the lawmaker or the businessman, if you seem to live fine, you have your own provision store, you have your own organization, you are riding your car, then you are an enemy. And that's why they can loot anywhere they want to loot. That's why they can destroy property. They don't see a future for themselves in their own country. And you see, when people lose their minds, it will be almost impossible to bring them back to order, to make them think, to make them act rationally. And that's why you see all those violence. I don't excuse it, but you have to understand why the violence exists. It's not everything that you link to opposition. People are hungry and angry and cannot think straight, and we therefore take laws into their hands.
Right. You're right that we wouldn't support violence, and I think that there is a unanimity, around that. But of course, like we explained, some of the things, especially in the north, but I'm a little bit surprised that it's in the north that this thing is actually becoming a little bit disorderly. I remember when we had the NSAS in 2020, that there wasn't much of that much noise in the north. It was mainly a southwest Lagos center thing. What do you think is responsible for that difference between this time and that time?
Because then it wasn't completely about economic hardship. It was about oppression. It was about policemen shooting people, harassing people, assaulting people. That was the original trigger. The hardship came to contribute. There are people who joined because they didn't see a life for themselves in the country. But the original trigger was oppression, high-handedness for NSAS.
Right.
That's okay. But this is purely about the fact that people cannot eat. That's the difference.
Interesting. So, what do you think, as a young person, the government can do? And now I think it's not just the federal government to resonate with young people.
First of all, the government should not force things. The state should not force things. In Lagos, at Ojota, the police were the ones who chased journalists away because protesters didn't come early enough. And the police said, your presence here is a risk to the neighborhood. Police started chasing journalists away.
Because the protesters hadn't arrived.
And they were journalists. And they just wanted the journalists to leave. And then hoodlums took over. And the police watched from a distance.
In Ojota?
Yes. And hoodlums started New Central TV. There's a video that FID put out. New Central TV journalists were literally pushed into their bus by hoodlums, within clubs and whatever. And then the police watched from a distance and then turned away and left. Now, especially in Lagos, I can tell you that you can't have violence without the hands of, people connected to the state. Maybe overzealous people, maybe planned by the state, I don't know. But you're trying to force people off the streets. I don't think that's a strategy. It's for the president to, not like I think it's going to happen, but what the president should have done, or can still do, is speak to the people from his heart. And forget about opposition. Forget about people planning. Forget about saying international funders are, bankrolling the people who are speaking. Realize that without a connecting point, even if there were backers out of the country, it wouldn't have worked. So speak to the people. Let them know what you plan to do going forward. Forget what you've done in the past that you are coming to real, and those things, are still subject to interrogation. But tell the people what you want to do going forward, and understand that two things really have to change. The naira has to be strengthened against the dollar so that, because we import virtually everything. Things are expensive. Nobody, a lot of people can't cope. You have to tackle that, and then you have to tackle fuel, the pump price of fuel. You must understand that whatever strategy you're coming up with, those two really have to come down. And then when those two come down, the prices of commodities will come down. Then the hardship in the land will reduce.
Final question. So I do know that our Foundation for Investigative Journalism has done quite a number of stories around smuggling, around some contracts that were done in places like Lagos by important government functionaries, and I know that there have been quite a number. As a matter of fact, the first PRO did say on politics today on channels that people are writing petitions against you. So can you just give us an update? So where are you with the Nigerian state?
Okay. It's unfortunate, but I've come to the understanding and the knowledge that there are quite a number of people in the government, in security agencies, who are trying to frustrate our work. And our work is not about individuals; it's about the country. For every single story that FIG has done, I can link it to something that benefits the country. Smuggling is about the security, the territorial integrity of the country and the economy. Now. One of the recent examples, heartbreaking to find that a journalist wrote about misappropriation of funds, because if the office of the special advisor to the president on SDGs says we are going to have a block of classrooms in a school.
Where was this?
In Lagos.
Okay.
And you go to that school and the school does not have the capacity to take a block of classrooms. It's not that they didn't build the school. It's not that they didn't build the school. The school, even if they wanted to build the building does not have the capacity.
So did you see that money was released for the building?
Of course, money was released.
And you have evidence that money was released for the building?
It's public. It's the FIG did not generate the original document. It's public. It's on gov spend.
So is this federal government money?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And written about the people who got the award, the reporter reached out to them, FIG reached out to them, they were struggling, they couldn't even defend. They came back much later to come and say, they put the project in another place very far because they found out that the soil, so you didn't do soil testing before you released 100 or something million naira to build a class of classrooms. The police should be interested, in whether that building, the police did not go to the school, because if they did, they would have found that, look, it's not just that FIG wrote that this project was not done. It's about the fact that even if they wanted to do it, the space for that project did not exist.
So is it that they put the building somewhere else?
You have to ask them. And now what they have done, abduct a journalist. First PRO was saying it's an arrest. The police can arrest, of course. But when you take someone, you deny the person access to family, to friends, to lawyers, that's an abduction. That has to be clear. And then now...
That was a journalist.
Yes. And then now, you release him on bail and you tell him to come from Lagos to Abuja once every 2 weeks. Now, that's media repression.
Yeah, but
that's
is the police going to pay for his travels?
No. Not just that they're not going to pay for his travels. Now, after...
Why can't he report in Lagos?
You have to ask the police. They have to answer. Unfortunately, I wish I could answer. Now, not just that. After abducting him for 10 days, I use him on bail, and then Norelokpade Fuluri has then sent a pre-action letter to say, if you don't apologize, and our lawyers have said, we're not going to apologize, let's have a case. So you can't have that going on. The complainant is about to, or has notified us of our intention to institute a case in court. Then the police still say that the guy should be coming once every 2 weeks. So what are you really trying to achieve? So it's not then, and that's why, someone like that, I have scant regard for the institution that the police is, because it is for the highest bidder, it is for the powerful, for the rich. It's not for the poor man. It's not for the honest man.
Well, they won't say that.
No, but the evidence is clear, because if you have written that the project was not done, you can't go and abduct the journalist without you, as the police, claiming to be conducting investigations. You held this guy for 10 days. You said you were investigating. Your investigation did not include going to that school. Because the school does not have the space for that project. You didn't go to the school. So then you now think, journalists are attacking you. But they will never respect you. They won't value whatever you are doing. Because it's so clear. Look, if you are going to oppress the media, at least do it in a very smart way. Do it for cases where the lines are blurred. Not for stuff like this. There's a lawsuit that is coming. And then the police still want the guy to be coming every day. So what exactly are they trying to achieve? If there is a case in court, then the police should let the case happen.
Have its course.
And then you keep saying you want to see me. I don't know what else I want to answer to. What my organization does a lot of times is write about people who are victims of fraud. We are not the ones that the police should be after. We wrote about smuggling. Somebody wrote a petition to the police, and the police are looking for... Why do you have to look for me? Go and find out if smuggling indeed happens. Look, I'm going to say this on national TV. If the government is really interested in knowing the smugglers, give me 5 policemen, empower them to arrest anybody, give me 1 month, you will know the smugglers.
Means of communication. We do not sit down, we do not dialogue behind closed doors. We asked, for example, here in Abuja, we asked to use the Eagle Square as the venue for convergence for protesters. But the minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, denied us that venue, and the place was barricaded by the military and police officers and the DSS. So we are not interested in any closed door meeting. or any closed door, behind door dialogue. If the president wants to dialogue, he should come to Eagle Square and speak to Nigerians, millions of Nigerians, both in Nigeria and in the diaspora. He should come speak to us the way he was there on May 29 or on June 12th. Right. I mean, to do it. If he wants a dialogue, you don't just say you want dialogue by words of mouth. You come to the Eagle Square. In the presence of all Nigerians, you come and announce, you tell us the policies that you can immediately, the demands that you can immediately meet, and the ones you want us to give you time for you to meet. Not that you call us, we can't go behind closed doors. We don't do that.
So in other words, you're not going to dialogue with them?
No, we are not against dialogue. We're asking the president to come in broad daylight.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to come to. I mean, there are all kinds of issues that would arise for him going to the middle of a protest.
Nothing would happen. He has a security hate. He's not bigger than any Nigerian. He's an elected official. He's a public servant. So it's only right for him to come to the public and talk to the people. Whether the president likes it or not, it will be successful. Because we are not going to give up. Whether on the 10th of August or beyond that, we won't give up until these demands are met. Country.
And I mean, you've effectively widened the protest twice now. First from a hunger/cost of living march into an end bad governance movement, and from that now it's evolving into a 1 million person march on August the 10th, which is 2 days hence. I mean, you've got all your guns blazing, haven't you? You're really piling on the pressure.
Definitely. The president deserves that. The federal government deserves even much more pressure because, the cost of living has exacerbated. People are very hungry. People are hungry. Insecurity keeps on rising across the nation. You go everywhere, you see how every day people just keep buzzing your phone, demanding support, financial support. People are hungry, they can't afford to eat. Now people are being paid 30,000 minimum wage. Now you recently signed and asking people to be paid 70,000 naira per month. 70,000 naira cannot do anything for an average Nigerian. The cost of living has risen over time since he announced the fuel subsidy removal last year. So you don't expect us to just sit at home while the president says, I'm doing something, you guys should go back in, and with time this would happen. But this same man bought private jets. He built a new apartment for his deputy, the vice president, Kashim Shettima. So we're asking him just to do the basics. Give Nigerian workers 250,000 naira minimum wage. Reverse the fuel subsidy remover. End insecurity. These are just some of the few demands. Release all politically imprisoned persons or detained persons. These things are not hard to do.
Right.
Do it. Yeah.
I'm going to come to those detained persons in a minute, but just in response to the things you say that are not being done. The government has been spelling out what they've been doing to alleviate the hardship. They say agricultural production has increased. They've given temporary cash payments to those who are very poor. They've distributed tens of thousands of tons of grain from the National Reserve. And they're urging people to be patient, but clearly your patience has worn thin.
But where's the proof? It's not evidence in the public. People, you can see it in the eyes of Nigerians that they are hungry. So if he says he's doing that, probably his minions are pocketing whatever it is he claimed to be giving out to citizens. Citizens are hungry. These things are not getting to anybody. The poor of the poorest of Nigerians are not getting these things. People can't even afford 3 square meals per day. So if the president says he's doing an agricultural revolution or whatever he calls it, it is not getting to the people.
Yeah, but he can't wave a magic wand. He's not Harry Potter, is he? He can't wave a magic wand.
We are not asking him to do magic.
Yeah, but that sounds like what you're asking him
last
to
year
do, to wave a magic wand, and within a year, everything
when he announced the removal
of
the fuel subsidy last year on May 29, while he was being sworn in, he didn't do any magic. He just took the microphone and said, fuel subsidy is gone. And since then, we've got into trouble. So he should do the same thing now and get us back
and say,
into our Eldorado.
Fuel subsidy is back on.
Yes. It's simple as that.
Yeah. Well, of all your demands, and there are quite a few of them, of all your demands, perhaps the most fundamental is your call for the government to address the constitutional foundations of Nigeria, which you say is the basis of the political, ethnic, and development disaster that this country has been facing, and the failure of successive governments to meet the fundamental objectives of security, welfare, etc. You wanted this to be addressed with utmost urgency. Have you heard anything in that regard?
Yeah, we haven't heard it. The president didn't say anything about that at all during his last.
But I mean, it's the job not so much of the president, but the National Assembly.
Definitely, we are not. But of course, it could mean it to the National Assembly to work on that. And the president is not the only person in government that we are facing. We are also demanding good governance from the 36 state governors and the FCT minister, and also the lawmakers. So it's not just about President Tinubu. It's about the Nigerian political system.
And that's why you're taking it to all the states and to make sure that the noise that you make is heard in the states.
Yeah, it has been heard everywhere.
Right.
There have been protests in Kano, in Rivers, in everywhere.
Right. So what's the situation with your colleagues who've been arrested and are currently being detained? Are they still being held? Because at one point, I think the secret police, the DSS, said they were not the ones holding one of your colleagues, Michael Lenin.
Yeah, that is a lie. The DSS picked Lenin on August 5th at his home in Abuja, around 2 a.m. Midnight, and he was taken to a place where we didn't know, but later he was detained at the intelligence response unit of the Inspector General of Police, the former SAS office at Guzape. So today our lawyers have been there. They've been there since they went there today. Before I got into the studio, I was just informed that others that were arrested alongside Lenin has been released, but that they got an order from the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, that Lenin must not be released. Right. I don't know why Mr. Ribadu wants to keep Lenin in detention, but he has to come and tell Nigerians why he's keeping him. Lenin has done nothing wrong.
Right.
He was only exercising his rights. So the government has no reason to detain him.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Are you worried that as voices rise in anger, because, I mean, a lot of the people we saw protesting were angry, perhaps justifiably so, but they were clearly angry. Are you worried that as voices rise in anger, that decorum could unravel and things could get really dark and violent on August the 10th?
Well, we don't think so. We're not a violent people. Even at the Take It Back movement, we are not violent. We have always been peaceful. We didn't just start yesterday. We've always been here, and we've always been peaceful. However, even the pockets of violence that occurred during this last 8 days came from the part of the government, the police, the DSS. The DSS shot at protesters at the National Stadium, the same venue which the government got a court order for protesters to. Of course, the court order has elapsed just yesterday because it was a 7-day ex parte order, and it has elapsed. So despite the fact that we do not even think that such an order should have been given, which infringes on the rights of Nigerians, however, we're glad that it has elapsed, and Nigerians will keep on protesting. We've never stopped, even while the court order was on. We've continued to protest. So the government have been attacking protesters with tear gas, live bullets. Over 40 protesters have been killed across Nigeria since August 1st, since the protest started. On the first day alone, one of the national newspapers reported the second day, on August 2nd, that 17 persons were killed on August 1st. So the person that is the person that is not peaceful is the government, not the protesters, not the Nigerian people.
Yeah.
We've been peaceful. I don't think no police officer has been killed. We do not have any arms. We don't have knife. We don't have guns. They are the ones who have been shooting at protesters.
But I mean, given the political panorama against which these protests are taking place in Nigeria, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised by the protests and the way it potentially could wake people up.
Yeah, sure. We are glad that people are waking up.
I mean, whip rather than wake people up. Okay. Whip them up into a frenzy.
I do not think so. I don't think it will whip people up into a frenzy. Nigerians are strong people. Nigerians are not cowards. They can't be whipped into frenzy at all.
Well, I mean, looking at the anger that bubbled to the surface, some of it clearly turned into violence and thuggery. I mean, we saw that. Do you think it's your responsibility, the organizers of the protest, to ensure that it is peaceful, or does that responsibility lie with the police?
On our part, we've always told our people to be peaceful, and we've always told protesters. But it is the duty of the government and also the police, to secure lives and properties. So the police should, wherever you see that some persons are looting whatever properties or causing mayhem, you arrest them. Those ones are not protesters. They could be government-sponsored talks. But they're not our people.
Right. But you can understand, and I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm just trying to see it from all sides, because it's our job to enlighten the public. I mean, you can see why there might be a bit of nervousness on the part of the government. For example, when you look at Bangladesh, where student leaders and young people have in the past few days led a protest that successfully overthrew the government. I mean, when you see a place like Bangladesh, what comes to your mind? Hope.
Yeah.
Hope in what sense?
That we could achieve more than, even we could achieve what we are asking for, and even more than that.
But it begs the question, what are you aiming? What's the end game? What are you aiming to achieve?
The end game is good governance, an end to bad governance. That's the end.
So what can the administration do now to stave off further protests beyond officials sort of snooping at you and snapping at your heels?
Yes, I still to our demands. Reverse the fuel subsidy removal. Announce a 250,000 naira minimum wage. Release all detained NSAS activists and other politically detained persons.
But, I mean, perhaps releasing detained persons and that kind of thing might be something that can be reasonably achieved. But that's why it's necessary to have a dialogue. I mean, are you aware of the potential damage that could be done to the economy and the reform program and the message that might be sent out internationally to potential investors that Nigeria is, in terms of its fidelity to its policies, is very shaky?
Well, we are not the ones making the policies. It is the government that makes policies. Ours is, we are demanding for good governance from our own government. You know, for example, there have been Boko Haram insurgency in the country for years. ISWAP have been ravaging some part of the northeast. Yet people are still investing in Nigeria. So
but they're not investing in that part of Nigeria.
Well, I was in Adamawa some weeks back. I saw international companies.
Yeah, but Adamawa is nowhere near as bad as the real epicenters. And to be fair, things have improved.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as bad as it was perhaps in 2014 or 2015 or sort of subsequent years. I mean, it's you know, the insurgencies have gone down.
But they're still there. Boko Haram there was still a bomb blast in Borno some weeks back. Yeah. So people are still living in fear in the Bay State, Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. And now it has moved into Zamfara and some parts of Kaduna. Even in the FCT, you know, there've been banditry everywhere. So that's the duty of the government. So rather than, you know, I said somewhere earlier, the Chief of Defense Staff, Christopher Musa, rather than deploying soldiers on the street, he should deploy them to terrorist ravaged areas. We don't need soldiers on the street. This is a protest. Only the police should be there, and probably the NSCDC. And those ones shouldn't even fire tear gas at people, as long as they are peaceful.
Yes, actually, that's an interesting comment you make, because I was with someone the other day, and they said, well, look at all the police cars and the military vehicles that are lined up on the streets.
Protest.
Why can't those people go to fight the insurgents and all the other people? Although, arguably, the military will say that they are doing that. But can you say at this point that essentially your protests have really not achieved anything so far? In terms of what you wanted to achieve?
Well, it wouldn't be right to say our protest hasn't achieved anything so far. Because if not for anything, it has raised the consciousness of Nigerians.
And that's an important thing.
It is a very important thing. You know, like Karl Marx said, that, you know, the material condition of people is what determines their consciousness. So the material conditions of Nigerians, hunger and poverty, impoverishment, is determining their consciousness at this moment.
And now that you've mentioned Karl Marx, that brings up the issue of Russia and the waving of Russian flags. What's your reaction to that? And your assessment of the way the government has reacted to it?
Well, Karl Marx existed during the Soviet Union. Russia is different from the Soviet Union.
Yeah, but Russia is the Soviet Union boiled down to one country. And the heart of the Soviet Union was always Russia.
Yeah, you're correct. But of course, we have nothing to do with the alleged use of Russian flags. And however, that is somewhat immaterial. Why is the government or the security agency so concerned about, you know, people waving some pieces of clothes around? Those are just mere pieces. We see flags of various countries at hotels. The Russian embassy, for example, if the allegation is true, the Russian embassy is here in Nigeria. It has the Russian flag on the Nigerian soil. Different hotels, several hotels. Oh, what am I even saying? There's a club called Moscow Underground here in Abuja. It has the Russian flag.
Yeah, but the intention is different. That's why when you're in court, they always assess what the motive is. See what I mean? That's part of the legal process, is establishing motive. Because once you establish motive, then it's like a domino effect. I mean, the question is the motive behind waving a flag, Russian flag, at a protest that is aimed against the government.
You had to be shocked that those waving those, because there are few persons, I saw some clips, those waving the Russian flag might be government-sponsored persons. You can't take anything beyond this government. You can't. There might not be people who are even protesting against hunger. There might be government-sponsored thugs who only want to, cause mayhem and, give reason for security agencies to clamp down on protesters. But in whole,
But that's only speculative, isn't it?
of course, the claim that they are part of us, or the protest is being sponsored by any foreign power, is also speculative. It is false, even in our own opinion. It is false because no one is sponsoring us, no international body is sponsoring us.
Right. Even though you quoted Karl Marx. I mean,
Karl Marx
but in
late.
fairness, I mean, that's not anything against you. I mean, Karl Marx is a philosopher.
Definitely.
But everybody, I mean, I've read Karl Marx and a lot of people. It doesn't make me a communist or anything like that. But what kind of a moment would you say this is in Nigeria? How much is this country at a crossroads?
Well, I think this is an awakening moment, for Nigerians and also for the Nigerian government. It is a notice for them to sit tight, the government especially, to sit tight.
You mean sit up?
Yeah, to sit up and,
Right.
get things right. Not, just going about traveling, junketing from country to country, getting luxurious cars, building homes, laundering our funds. It is a moment for a call to action. Let people live well. Let them live in peace, and you'd have no problem. Governance is not that difficult. We travel to other countries. We see other countries that are doing well. So
why do you think it's going belly up in Nigeria here? Why do you think it's going wrong?
I think it's just these people are not interested in developing the country. That is what I believe. They're not interested in they just want to get there and loot whatever they can loot. Because they just take political will to get things done. They don't have that political will. And they're not ready to do it. That's why when you ask them that, why don't you do this? They just say, go and shoot at them. Rather than saying, okay, how do you...
So guys, we know that today is the last day of the protest. The question remains, has the protest been concluded? Has the protest ended? Guess what? The leaders and the organizers of this protest said they are coming back in October. August, September, October. So September is going to be all about re-strategizing. I mean, Nigerians want to hit the streets. How can you be resting in your houses when there is fire on the mountain? These hard times is not going to end anytime soon because the government is not taking any step that offers hope to the Nigerian people. You can imagine as it stands now, you can't say this is what this government is doing so that at the end of August, from the month of September, we'll start seeing light at the end of the tunnel. There is nothing. I mean, nothing is practically happening in Nigeria today that gives hope to the ordinary man that even by the end of this year, that things are going to get better. So as it stands now, this government they've pushed Nigerians to the wall by removing fuel subsidy. And they've come back to just sit down to watch Nigerians, struggle with the hard times that we are into. And that is what people don't want to see. That is what people don't want to see. This government, there is no proactive measures being taken. They just keep telling Nigerians to bear. I promise you, I'm not going to fail you. You are going to smile. Tell us what you are doing. Mr. President, tell Nigerians what are the practical steps you've taken or you're about taking or you are considering taking for things to get better, at least for people to have food on their table. That is the worrying part. Many Nigerians are going to bed without food. Like we've seen some pictures being circulated on the internet where people are suffering from kwashiorkor, malnutrition in 21st century in the most black or most populous black nation in the whole world. Nigeria, that has one of the biggest countries in Africa in terms of land mass. We can't feed ourselves. We can't go to the farm. We cannot send the bandits away. We can't return IDP people. I mean, people that have been internally displaced. We can't return them back to their places. And one keeps wondering, what is Tinubu doing, for God's sake? Why has Tinubu just gone silent? Who is he afraid of? Why is he not at least promising Nigerians that insecurity will be a story of the past? This is what we are doing. That we are going to bring back those who are in the IDP camps so that they can start farming. Majority of those in the IDP camps are farmers. And because they've been displaced and taken to a strange place where they cannot farm, they are rather there being dependent, asking for daily stipends, whereas they are supposed to have been in their communities farming for the nation. But they've been displaced, and this government has no say in terms of telling Nigerians these are what we are doing to ensure that the IDPs, do you know the population of the IDPs? Do you know how many they are scattered across the nation? People cannot go to their farms. Even those that have not been displaced, they can't approach their farms. It's either they are being told to stay off their farms, or they are told to pay levies, which they've argued that they don't even have such money to pay. Or they are being asked, never to dare comment on their farms. And this government is doing nothing to say no to this kind of things happening in this country. So guys, a whole lot of things are happening in Nigeria. And guess what? We lack the leadership that can really take Nigeria away from where we are today. That's why we keep saying, please, come next election, don't waste your votes on people cannot deliver. No matter how much they are paying you, no matter what they are giving you, don't sell your votes. Especially the poorest of the poor. They are the ones that easily sell their votes, and they are the ones to easily be caught up as prey by bad governance. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Thank you.